myself, who was a Shomer Shabbos, who ate kashrus, who was Shomer mitzvahs, I don't think even one. And if I did so, it was only because I was the grandson of the rabbi and the son of the shofet of San Francisco. And after my bar mitzvah, my grandfather and my parents looked at me and said, "What are we going to do with this boy? He is in a sviva that is absolutely hostile to things that are Yiddish. What are we going to do with this young boy?" And shortly after bar mitzvah, before I was even 14 years old, they sent me away by myself. They sent me away 1,000 miles from home to the city of Seattle, where they had started a somewhat yeshiva ktana. They were introducing us to Mishnayos and a little Gemara. And I was there for 2 years, all alone, 14 years old, 15 years old, and 16 years old. I would go back home for a yontif, a few weeks in the summer. But from that point forward, till my marriage, I was alone. After there, I went to the yeshiva, studied there for 6 years, got smicha, was in the shiur of the Rav, became very close to him. And in fact, when I entered his shiur, my grandfather, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, got on the train in San Francisco, and it took, this was 3,000 miles away, for 4 nights and 3 days to travel to New York, to visit the Rav, to introduce himself, and to tell the Rav, Lanar hazeh hispalalti. For this child, I was praying. And he appealed to the Rav, look after him. The Rav is very impressed, and he promised to do so, and he did do so, and we established a relationship between a Talmud and a Rebbe and a friend for almost 40 years. So what can I say to you, Dovid? To tell you did a good job, you did a great job. But I'm sure some of the boys sitting on the table there are going to do his job as well as you did. 95,000 boys and girls, going to yeshiva. So what is my message to you? My message to you as your great-grandfather speaking to his great-grandson, is that I was very fortunate, even in being alone all those years and having to make my own decisions until I got married to Grandma Shalom. I was conscious of one thing, of the Hemshech Hadoros. You are the 4th generation to me. I am the 3rd generation to my grandfather. And I was with him till I was 30 years old, and so it's really 7 generations with me in the middle being represented here. And my request to you, and my tefillah to you, is I know that you're going to be a good London. I know that you're going to be a frum boy. I don't have to speak about all the platitudes that one talks to a bar mitzvah. It's second nature to you. But I want you to think of one thing, that it is going to be your old, it's going to be your yoke to continue the Hemshech Hadoros, to continue the generations of our family. Retain on Hara, all the 7 generations are Yereim Shleimim. That every one of them, horizontally and vertically, all up and down the line, are all within the Torah fold. It's a difficult responsibility. And as you grow older, there are a lot of temptations, there are a lot of diversions in life, but you have to understand what your responsibility is going to be. The Rav had a beautiful word on the Tefillah and Shemona Esrei, al tzadikim v'al chasidim v'al ziknei amcha beis Yisrael v'al pleitas ofreim. This was a vort that he delivered as a hesped to the Brisker Rav, to his uncle, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. So he said, I understand what tzadikim are, what chasidim are, ziknei amcha, what a pleitas ofreim. The literal translation are the refugees among the Sofrim, among the scribes. What type of interpretation is that? He said, no. Sifrei Pleitas Ephraim are people in each generation who come from the previous generation. That means in every generation there is always somebody from the previous generation who is there as an example, who is there, could answer any questions, who can describe. In the Raya they bring from Serach Bas Asher, who went down to Mitzrayim with the Bnei Yaakov and went out of Mitzrayim hundreds of years later, that she was the Simon to whom they could turn to. So this is a responsibility that you have to look backwards in a way, to look backwards to the generations before you, and realize the responsibility that you have to take the derech of those generations with you and keep them forward. So this is my bracha to you tonight. I am very proud of you. In fact, I'm proud of all my great-grandchildren, my grandchildren, my children. Especially, I would like to say that my late wife, to whom I was married for 64 and a half years, lived 10 years of her life in Portugal. And for 5 of those years, they lived in a small town, a university town, the only Jews, a father and mother and 2 daughters. They kept Shabbos, they kept kashrus, only 1 set of dishes because there was no meat to eat. Towards the end, a professor came and was able to chef some chickens. And from there, they went on to the big town, to Lisbon, for another 5 years until they came to America. And when she came to America as an immigrant, not a refugee, in the 40s, and she looked around and she saw millions of Jews, and so few were keeping the tradition. So few were keeping the Masorah, and she couldn't understand. We were 4 people in a town in Portugal, and we kept everything. And here in America, you have so much, and most of them keep nothing. I am determined that my descendants, whoever they will be, we didn't know, whoever they will be, are going to keep that Masorah. And she was my partner in life. From the time that I got smicha, from the time I was a Rav for a short period of time in the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue in Montreal, and for various reasons, personal reasons, went into business, became the president of the OU, and devoted my time to the community. I always had in mind the Hemshech Hadoros. I had a responsibility to my Zayda, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and to my descendants, whoever they will be. So that is my message to you. And I know the good boy that you are, I mean good in the sense of a Lev Tov, of a one who is Mechabed his parents, and one who has respect for people, that you will be that one. And you will carry on the tradition that may of us in Shona.
Wow.
What?
In 5 minutes?
5 minutes.